A very warm welcome and good morning from Stockholm to everyone who's joining in today. My name is Avanti, and I'm very honored to be listened to and being part of this conversation with you today. What we are going to spend time doing in this 1 hour live session is look at how we can bring our lens of mindfulness, the tool of mindfulness, to the element of parenting this week. If you saw the last week, we were all about talking about relationships, about consciousness, and about being in the moment with what shows up. I'd like to continue that thread this week in looking at how we can bring mindfulness into the intricate details of our relationship. And for this time, into the intricate web of parenting. And I think there is close to a few thousand books that have probably been written on parenting so far, haven't they? And if you're a conscious, a studied parent, you have done your best to read through, become completely informed, and aware of what best ways we can parent our children. We have not learned how to parent ever. It's our first time doing. And to be able to learn something on the fly with very little training and to try and get it mostly appropriate to the situation at hand, I think requires a whole different dimension of awareness and consciousness to what we are being to our kids. And this is what I want to speak about today. What are the three needs of our children? And how, as parents, can we furnish those, suffice those needs to an extent that we feel we've done our best? A lot of times I hear parents making really funny comments about, it's such a tough job. Oh my God, summer is here again. Now we're not going to have our alone time. And I think that is absolutely true. And if you take the smiles out of it, I think these parents are saying what really their fears are. They're really speaking the truth here with saying sometimes it's really hard to connect to our 7-year-old or to our teenagers. And so in this podcast today, or in this session today, I will be focusing on beginning to look at what the needs of our children are, beginning to look at how we could become more conscious and mindful in their presence, and how we can best support both their needs and our needs as parents for self-care, replenishment, and joyousness in this coming together of a relationship, of a long-lasting, memorable, beautiful relationship we can have with our children. So before we begin, and before I go into saying anything more, let's do a quick short contemplation or a little sit down practice. Now I'm starting to really enjoy the word contemplation. Um, Contemplation is one where we are reflecting and actively thinking about the words that the speaker is bringing to us. And so while you listen and I lead this contemplation, my request to you is to allow anything that shows up in your mind to be. If you feel the necessity to not think something negative about a situation with your kids, don't mind it. We all have these negative thoughts and they're a part of being human. So allow those and let those show up. If there is happy thoughts, thoughts that you want to that you've had before, of situations that you've had before with your children, absolutely let that show up. Or anxiety and fear and worry, that could show up too. And they're all valid. So, the last thing we want to do here today is to tell our minds not to think about something, because then eventually it will show up. So, allowing our thoughts to be how they are, we're going to sit into a position that will support you for the next 5 to 8 minutes. I invite you to bring your attention to a focal point, to gaze down to a meter or so away from you, and not really closing your eyes on this one. And as you bring your gaze down, to bring your attention to your breath, just watching how your nostrils would change as they take in air, breathing in and letting go of that with a large exhale. And as you do this, bringing awareness to the depth of your breath, the speed of your breath, and simply allowing it to work on its own without trying to slow down or speed up your breathing. Just becoming aware of what's inside of you, what's showing up for you. And as we get more accustomed to this practice of becoming aware of our breath, bring your attention to the question that is showing up now. What are the needs of my child? What are his or her unsaid needs? And what are his or her said needs? Allowing for those responses to start populating your mind's eye for now, allowing to see the words that are showing up for you, bubbling to the surface. As you continue to sit in a posture that supports a relaxed yet attentive body, and as we come up with some ideas and thoughts, we will now start to collect them, to put them aside for a little bit. To make space for a new question. What are your needs as a parent? And what are those unsaid needs that you or your partner would have? Or what are the said, mentioned, spoken needs that you might be already aware of? Again, allowing what is showing up in the moment to simply being able to receive, being open to allowing and accepting what is showing up for you without getting involved, but simply standing back and looking at what is showing up. And as we prepare to complete this contemplation, I will invite you to now bring your gaze back to the computer, bring your posture back to one that is relaxed in a way that best helps you listen to the session further and bring back your attention to what we'll be speaking ahead. So I hope you enjoyed that little contemplation where you paid attention to what showed up when we spoke about your child's needs and your own needs as a parent. When I did this exercise, after reading multiple parenting exercises, multiple parenting related books, and listening to multiple podcasts, there were three things that stood out to me. And I'd like to share what showed up for me when I thought about my children's needs. That one, they are looking for psychological safety. And what does psychological safety mean? That they want to know that they are going to have dinner at a certain time. The safety of being around a routine and how adults will come and go in this routine. It could be bedtime for my younger one. He wants to know that I will drop in on him or my husband will when he's in bed. And that is the psychological safety where the child would feel trusted in a set of routines which will soothe or calm him. And it is proven that this psychological safety is absolutely imperative for children to thrive. It's the most basic requirement. In situations where children are being fought over a divorce settlement, for example, the basic structure of a family coming apart, the child goes through disruption of his basic psychological safety. And when a child goes through that disruption, they will need a lot more soothing, a lot more calming, because they realize that they feel alone. So the need for a child to have a psychological safety stems from the fact that they need to have a sense of belonging. They want to feel like they're part of a bigger community or a bigger group, which in our modern sense is the closest family that we have. Now, this was the other thing that showed up, a sense of belonging with friends, neighbors, parents. What are children looking for? Children are looking to feel like they have a support system, a group of people that they can trust and work with and create new ideas and explore the world and have a good time. And sometimes, when they have difficult situations, have friends that they can fall back on. That is what is creating the sense of belonging for them. And nowadays, in our fast globalizing world, the sense of belonging for our children is now being limited to the immediate nuclear families that we're living in, without the structure of the grandparents, for example, or without the warmth of their cousins or their far cousins. Do you remember how, I think 20 years ago, really dating myself here, but I think about 20 years ago, we'd have a home where we went to every summer, where we'd have 10 to 15 cousins come together. It was chaos. But what it did was it created this sense of community, this sense of trust, this sense of joy that we derived as children from sources other than our parents. And that is the kind of communities, that is the kind of groups that we're looking to create. Now, at home as well, I think it's easy for kids to find the sense of belonging outside home than inside home. And that could be a shocking thing. I mean, this is something that I believe in strongly, that they unless children have a chore or a responsibility or a agency that they can work towards, that they feel responsible towards contributing, they will not have that sense of belonging. Because ask yourself, when do you feel like you belong to some community? When someone counts on you, when they can trust you to come in with those pies every Christmas fair. And that is what we're trying to look at. And as a parent, this need was high on my list of unsaid needs for my children. They are looking to say, Amma, this is where we should be doing our bowling, for example. This is how we should be planning our day tomorrow because it's the weekend. They want agency. They want a sense of say in what they are participating in. And while as parents, it could be hard to say, oh my God, now I'll have to think of including this trip to a park or a bowling alley. That involves the child to an extent to give him or her the agency to become part of the family. I know of a family where their daughter, since she was 7, would end up going into the kitchen and invariably end up creating dishes. She would bake a lot. She would cook dishes from different cuisines. Um, she still does it. She is 20 today, and she still does it. And were they all turning out great? No, they were not turning out to be great dishes. They sometimes came home with a burnt cake. But what I really appreciated from the mum was that she encouraged the child to bring that burnt good home, trusting that we will see the benefit. And it wasn't that burnt. We still ate some bits. So it was good. But the idea being that kids become encouraged to take agency, to take initiative when they feel like they're contributing in a household. They feel like the parent is sharing their struggles, and that gives them not oversharing. Again, of course, from a parenting perspective, I think it's also a healthy relationship that I'm talking about. But if us as parents we can create a shared responsibility in our households, then that brings in a lot of contribution and joy from our children. The third and final need that showed up for me during this contemplation was that the child wanted agency and the sense of contribution, like I said. And while this may show up in weirdly annoying ways in the beginning, at the age of 5, it could show up as a way where they want to wear their own sock, and it would take them up to 15 minutes to figure it out. And they'd get upset that the sock wouldn't fit right, that it wasn't the right way around. And there is a lot of frustration and anger around that moment. But that agency grows. They grow out of it. They move to becoming 8 or 9 and say, which shoe would I want to wear today? Because their agency grows with the decisions they're making. For us as parents, I believe that the best job we could do is create citizens who can think independently for our future generations, be it sustainable environment related issues, be it people related issues, be it AI related issues. The most important thing that we can offer to the world as parents is healthy, individualized, thinking children who grow up to take on responsibilities where they would contribute within a community safely, responsibly, to making changes to make our world a better place to be. And for this to happen, as parents, we must allow for things to go bust. We must allow for failure. We must bring in extreme trust in the child and vulnerability as a parent. That we have a humility in us to say that I don't know all the answers, child, but maybe you do. And so, as a parent, it has been my endeavor to constantly keep these needs in mind for my children. They're now 12 and 15, and it's an absolute joy to see the agency they take, the strength they've created through success and failure to feel that they belong to the family, to feel that they feel safe, and to feel that they can take initiatives and that they can create their own futures for themselves. And that for me is success that a parent could ask for. So, am I feeling extremely grateful today? I am absolutely. And the way I do this is by becoming more mindfully aware of the needs that they have and the ones that I have. As a parent, I want to be able to spend time with them. As a parent, I want to be able to ensure that they are safe at all times. And this may not mean that I have them tracked on a GPS tracker, but that is a possibility. But again, that they should be able to say, oh, I'm sorry, I had to be in somebody's house because they needed help, so that they're able to make these impromptu changes in their plan based on what they think is right in the situation. And to almost gift the children that trust and belief as a parent that we know you're making mostly right choices. Is it always going to help? No, it's not. And sometimes our trust has been taken for granted. And you might say, Avanti, are you out of your mind? Why would you do that? But I feel the beauty of a relationship is where you talk boundaries, is where you realize that you know, we are not understanding, we're not on the same page, that our boundaries are being infiltrated. So when you come up with your needs that your child would have, also look at how much of your own need there is popping up. And when you're able to compare what your need is versus theirs, if you will be able to find mutually agreeable solutions to common problems. You will not have the same cyclical question and answers, back back talking, right? Um, Being stonewalled by your children, because it's hard when you cannot come across to somebody. um, then it's hard to make a point, especially when the other person's not wanting to listen to you. And so how I deal with it is an example that I would like to share is the fact that my son recently got gifted a PC for his 16th birthday. And it is a little bit in advance, I must agree. However, we felt that he had waited very long, and he made a very strong case for why it's a good idea to bring him a PC. Now, for me as a parent, I looked at what my need was in this situation. My need was that his sleep routines are not disrupted, his study routines are not disrupted, and that he's able to create clear distinction in work life as we start the new school year. And for him, his need was to belong, with having a setup, with having a fast set gaming system, which is at par with the rest of his peer group, because that is how he could calibrate how how much he belongs. And as he figures that journey out, we had to respect that boundary that he had. So it's interesting that we've come now to a common solution to, to solve both our needs, his and ours. That we decide to place the computer away from his room. He had an earlier setup, which was a much smaller computer, a slow one, much older, right in his room. And we decided together that we move his gaming setup to a different room, or to a more work related space, where then he's able to spend time gaming, but then there's a clear distinction in how he comes back to his room to rest, relax, and rejuvenate. where devices are not allowed apart from a phone. And so, while these might sound like really first world situations, I believe that both our needs could be met as parents and children. We just have to be present in the moment, being non judgmental of our children, mindfully non judgmental about what their needs are or how they think that they want to progress as a community member. And so to be able to bring in open mindedness and curiosity to saying, but why do you think like that, my child? To ask her, okay, you don't want to go to this event. I understand that. Tell me a bit more. And asking open ended questions rather than close ended questions would make it a bit easier too. So, when you're in the moment, being able to have a conversation while suggesting that you believe and trust them and you love them and that we're on the same team, these are important affirmations to make as the conversation is going. And when you're able to establish the trust in the relationship every single time you have a good, a fluent conversation or a challenging one, you're able to build a team. You're able to build a relationship that you can be proud of. And there will be things that your child wishes were different about you as a parent, and the parent would wish were different about the child, or not. And that is okay too, because we're evolving as parents as well. And disclaimer here is every interaction for me with my son the same way. Am I an expert on this? I have read fairly much, but I wouldn't say that I would have a solution for your situation and for your child. That is something that you will need to introspect and sit down with to look at what works best in your relationship based on the personality traits that you and your child have together. So, in a sense, really, my call is to us as parents to have a longer view and strategy on how we want to parent our children. You've probably heard this: don't sweat the small stuff, but allow it more as an abundant, infinite relationship where the child that comes in is learning how to live in this world, which can be quite difficult, but with the right focus, with the right environment, we can make it less painful for her or him to learn it. That we create the environment of resilience, of safety, trust, that will lay a basic foundation for when they go out to the real world. It could be 18, it could be 20, it could be 28. But when they step out and they want to do things on their own, they still have a place that they feel safe at. And that will be their home. So, mindfulness in that essence has given me as a parent a blueprint for how we could solve situations and tricky, challenging, difficult situations with my children. And I hope that listening to me speak for the last 20 minutes has probably helped you in ways that you can count. But with this, I mean, I'm hoping that you send me questions and we can discuss this and talk about this. I'm very happy to bring in more mindfulness related information in here. But I want us now to, before we rush into what should I be doing, how do I change my relationships, or do I need to change, just being able to sit down with what was spoken so far, to be able to reflect what is showing up in your body and mind right now. And for that, I'd like to invite you to another short contemplation while we bring ourselves to a posture that will best support us for the next 10 minutes or so. To be able to find your sit bones either on the chair or mat that you're sitting at. Finding the heaviest part of your body, allowing it to sink into the floor or the seat that you're seated at. Bringing attention to your feet, your shoulders, and your hands to see if they're comfortable where they are and if they can stay undisturbed for the next 10 minutes or so. Being aware of your breathing, being aware of your thoughts, as we gaze down upon the floor about a meter away. To watch what is showing up in our mind. There could be thoughts about parenting, related conversations, situations with your children. It could be just what you've heard right now. Things that you agree with, and possibly a few things that you don't agree with either. Observing how those thoughts are affecting your breathing. Bring your attention now to the breath as you inhale and as you exhale. Watching the length of your inhale and watching the length of your exhale. Observing our abdomen moving as we breathe in or out. And watching that breath manifest in the body. checking to see if there's a gradual movement from the chest to the diaphragm to the abdomen, or if a sudden impulsive breath is what is doing it now. Then bring your attention to our body, scanning from the top of our heads to our neck and shoulders, down to the hands and the chest and the diaphragm and the pelvis, down to our knees, calves and toes. Just observing what sensations are showing up for you in your body. We spoke about the three needs of our children: psychological safety, a sense of belonging, and a sense of agency and contribution. Observing what shows up when we speak these words. And simply being present in the moment to the sensations of joy, pain, pleasure, or discomfort showing up for you right now. And being okay with what shows up without expecting anything different, without wanting to shun away any ideas that don't fit in your mental compass right now. Now bringing our attention back to our breath. As we prepare to complete the session, complete this contemplation, as we come back to the room we're seated in, to the corner you're at, to the seat or mat you're seated on, to then bringing yourself back to the session. Inviting you now to open your eyes if you've closed them, or to bring your gaze back to the screen to become present in this moment. Taking a minute to look at what is surrounding you right now. What is the environment like around you? For me, it is raining in Stockholm. And that means the earth smells different. The trees are swaying, and the water, the rainwater, falling across the window pane. Become completely aware to what is surrounding you. Stepping out of your thought and body, to observe what you have around you, not stepping out of your body, but being with your body in your sensations, being aware of what's showing up, being able to watch reality as it is taking place, slow and steady. With this, we come to the end of another session. It was wonderful for me to be part of this with you, and I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation. I hope you enjoyed my perspective on parenting and how we can become better, mindfully aware as parents, to become those role models, to become those average Joes that we want our children to have around them, to make their futures successful and happy and content. I wish you and your families a very good week ahead. Make sure you join us again as we go live on Wednesday this week between 6 and 7 p.m. Stockholm time, 5 and 6 p.m. UK time, and 9 to 10 a.m. PDT, where Oliver, Lorian, and me will continue talking about relationships and if mindfulness brings a magic wand to it. We will have another session on Friday with Lorian at 12 p.m. UK time. So make sure you join him and join his meditation journeys and his ramblings, if I could call it, about everything from consciousness to relationships to communication. Thank you very much for sharing our journey with us. We hope you like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and make sure you hit on the notification bell so you're informed about every live session that we have planned for you. Here's wishing you all the best for the new week. Have a great Monday. Bye for now.